In this video, we're going to get down to the business of discovering the servers that we want to monitor and installing a Windows agent on those servers so that we can monitor them. So in our operations console, you'll note that when we select monitoring, that over here on the right in this states and alerts section in the middle, we've got this overview of the current state of our environment. So in my network, we've pretty much got no computers at all right now. Well, we do have two, and I'll get to that in a moment, but we don't have any in a critical state. We have no warnings. We do have two that are healthy, and neither of them are in maintenance mode or in an unknown state. Now, these numbers obviously represent the number of computers or distributed applications in this section that are being monitored, and each of these numbers here are also links. So if we click our healthy computers link, it'll open up this new console window that will show us more about the systems that are in this category. Now, since I've been doing this for a while, all this monitoring stuff, I'd wager that you'd probably be less interested in the systems that are healthy and more interested in the ones that have problems. Because let's be serious for a moment. We've only got a certain amount of hours in the day, and looking at stuff that's working perfectly, well, that's awesome, that's great. In a perfect world, everything would be healthy. But the reality is we need to react to the things that aren't working quite so well. But that's okay. We're going to see and react to critical events later on as we progress through these videos. But right now, since these are our only two systems that's really being monitored, let's have a quick look. So let's close this, and we'll go to Windows Computers, and we can see the two servers we have, which are our management servers. And let's just refresh this so it populates this area here. Obviously, they are showing up as management servers. We can see that the Windows operating system isn't being monitored. Well, not yet anyway, because we will need to install those management packs, something we'll do in a not too distant video. All right, so let's install an agent. But first, like always in these videos, we're going to have to open up the relevant firewall ports because we do have the Windows firewall enabled. Again, in your environment, you might not need to do this step. So we'll install an agent on our SCOM SQL server. So firstly, we'll switch over to that and run some PowerShell. Okay, well, I've just switched over to our SQL server, and we will go and open up our C drive and our scripts folder that we've been using. And I'm going to open this Open Firewall Ports for a SCOM agent discovery. But I'm not going to go through this script because we've seen scripts like this before. I will, however, make this script available for download with the video as I've done with all the other scripts I've used. So I'm just going to copy this, and we'll close that, and we'll paste it into a PowerShell window. And that should be it. All right, well, I've just switched back to my management server. So let's use the first method, which is going to be a discovery method where we can push out the agent. So we're going to change to the administration tab. And at the top here, if we select administration, you can see in the middle here, we've got that required configuration task section again. And the first thing it's going to ask us to do is to configure computers and devices to manage. Now, if we click this, it's going to open up a discovery and manage wizard. And if we just quickly cancel that, and right click on device management, you'll see we can open up the discovery wizard that way. Alternatively, we have this hyperlink down here at the bottom. Now, all of them are going to start at the same wizard. I prefer to use this hyperlink. That's my way of doing it. So obviously we need to put an agent on our devices in our network to monitor them. And the first part of this process is to discover those devices. So from this wizard, we can choose Windows computers, Unix and Linux computers, and network devices. Obviously, we're going to go with Windows right now because that's the title of this video, so we'll click Next. Okay, so how do we want to do this? Do we just want to automatically discover Windows-based computers and let Operations Manager take care of everything? Or do we want to use the advanced discovery method and choose to scan for servers and clients, or servers only, or clients only? Now, I'm going to leave the defaults as they are here, although I could choose which management server these servers we discover will be managed by, either MS01 or MS02, the agony of choice. I'll leave it at 1, and we'll click Next. Now, from here we can set how we want to discover these devices. We can select objects from Active Directory to scan, and we can create a query to locate those objects, or we could just browse for specific computer names and then type them into the box. So if you've just added a new system to your network and you want to manage it, you could choose the bottom option and we'll click Browse, and that'll open up the familiar Active Directory find box, and we could locate it that way. Although, honestly, at this early stage in our deployment in our lab, I mean, you might have 10,000 computers in your network right now, and I doubt that typing in a long list of names is going to have you feeling all that enthusiastic about doing that. So let's cancel this, and we'll choose to scan Active Directory, and we'll click the Configure button. And from here, we're able to choose how we want to find these computers. We could do it by computer name, the computer owner, or the role that the machine holds. Now, it does default to any, so right now, if we don't change anything at all, it'll try and find a machine that's running any Windows operating system in our domain. Now, I could further narrow this down by saying only domain controllers, for example. But I've only got a couple of machines in my network at the moment, so I'm going to leave it at any and click OK, and that'll populate this field here. And now we'll click Next. Right, from here, we'll need to choose which account will be used to discover these computers and install the agent on the computers it discovers. So this account needs to have administrator rights on those machines. Now you might be thinking, didn't we create an action account earlier in one of our other videos? Wouldn't we just use that account? Well, no, not really, because that account probably won't have the right permissions, the administrator rights on each of the target machines. So unless you manually set the permissions on that action account so that it has local admin rights on every server that we want to discover, now in the case of my discovery wizard, that means all the servers are in my domain, then this won't work. The action account by default simply hasn't been given admin rights to all the computers on my network. So what can we do? Well, we could go and create a new account in Active Directory for the purpose of installing these accounts. We could add our action account to the local administrators groups on every machine we want to manage. But it's not really that difficult. We could do it using group policy, or we could already use an account that already has the required permissions, such as the existing domain admin account. Now, I do like to steer clear of using domain admin accounts for any production work, but in my lab here, it's okay. So I'm going to say use other account. That would be the administrator account. And we'll enter in the password. And that looks about right, so we'll click Discover. Now, if you are running a discovery for the first time in a large network, you might be here for a while, so maybe it's time to go and grab a coffee. In smaller networks, and obviously my lab, it didn't take long at all. You can see it already found our domain controller and our SQL server. So we'll worry about the domain controller later. Let's just select our SQL server only. And we could down the bottom put this device in an agent managed mode, but we could also use an agentless managed mode if required. Now, since it is a Windows server that we do want to install an agent on, I'm going to leave the default and click Next. Now, finally, we can specify a directory on the machine where we'd like this agent to be installed. Now, it does default to using the program files directory, and that's fine by me. We can then choose what credentials we'll use when performing any actions on that agent. Now, it defaults to using local system, and that's what we'll use, so we'll click Finish. So what's going to happen now, let's just move this so we can see it a little bit better, is our agent's going to be deployed or pushed out to the target, our SQL server in this case. Now, the good thing about this window is we could close it, we could go home if we like, and this process is still going to continue regardless of whether this window stays open. Now, since this will take a moment to install, let me pause the video here. We'll come back once it's done. Okay, well, as you can see, it's done. Our task completed successfully, and our agent deployment was successful. So let's click Close. And now if we click on Agent Managed, we should see our SQL server listed here that we're now managing. Although it will be listed as not monitored yet because all of the discoveries will be running on that machine to find out more about it. We've only just deployed the agent, the bit of software that makes monitoring possible. So until we start working with management packs, we actually won't be monitoring that much. So to prove that, let's just go to the monitoring view and the Windows computers view, and let's just refresh this. So you can see we've now got a couple of machines that we're managing, but almost nothing's been actively monitored. Well, that's not entirely true. At this point, we're doing some basic heart beating to make sure these systems are alive, but we're not really doing any monitoring of applications or disk space and things like that. None of that's happening yet. So anyway, right now, congratulations, we've got an agent. So let's run through another installation, this time on our domain controller, and we'll do it manually. So I've just switched over to my domain controller, and we'll go and open up Windows Explorer, and we will navigate to our management server. Either one of them is fine. And we'll head off to Program Files, Microsoft System Center 2016, Ops Manager, Server, Agent Management, and then we're going to copy the contents of this folder. In fact, we'll copy the whole folder across to our desktop. All right, and we'll open that up, and we will run the mom agent MSI file, which starts up a wizard. No prices for guessing that was going to happen. We'll click Next. We'll agree with the licensing terms and click I agree. And we'll leave the default path to install the files as it is, and Next. Now at this stage, we're not going to worry about OMS. We may look at that in a later video. Right now, we'll want to connect the agent to SCOM. So we'll do that. We'll click Next. Okay, and here we'll need to enter in the name of our management group, which in my case is column MG. And we'll need a server to connect to, one of our management servers. So this time, let's go with our second management server, which is col MSO2. Hopefully I spelled all that right. The default port of 5723 we won't change. We'll click Next. The agent account will use local system. Nothing to change there. Let's click Next. I won't use Microsoft Update. Next again. And we've got our summary, so let's click Install. Now, obviously, this agent installation is going to kick off and the agent will be installed, but since this is a manual installation, this agent won't be able to connect just yet. And it's done already. There you go. So we didn't even need to pause the video. Let's just click Finish, and we'll open up the event viewer. And as a SCOM administrator, I will tell you the event viewer is about to become one of your best friends. So let's expand Applications and Services Logs. We'll select Operations Manager. And in here, we'll expect to see at least one error in particular. This one here, the 20070, which tells us that the agent had tried to connect to our management server, but it was simply refused. And that's exactly what we should expect to see, because this server's agent was manually installed and needs to be approved to talk to SCOM. And secondly, because this is a domain controller, we need to do something special for these servers to grant them required permissions. So we should expect to see a 7017 error telling us that we need to run this HSLockdown tool. So let's do that first, since we're already on this domain controller. In fact, let's not. That way I can show you what we'll actually see in the console. All right, well, I've just switched back to our management server, and if we go to Administration and look at Pending Management, we should expect to see our domain controller here, which we do. Now, we can select it, and we can click Approve, or Reject, if the case may be. So let's approve that, and then we'll click Approve there. And that will now move this agent to our Agent Manage section. And here we can see it assigned to MSO2. Now, obviously, we can see straight away that this server is grey. And that's because our domain controllers, we have to explicitly grant the ability to use local system rights for the health service. So let's go fix it. Now, to locate this HSLockdown tool on our domain controller, you'll find it in the folder where you've installed the Microsoft Monitoring Agent on the domain controller. So let's open up a command prompt, and we'll navigate to Program Files, Microsoft Monitoring Agent. In fact, it's actually in a subfolder called Agent. All right, so now we're going to run HSLockdown /A NT Authority System. All right, so we can see that this has been allowed, and it tells us we do need to restart the health service to apply those changes. So that's fine. Let's just run services, and we will locate the Microsoft Monitoring Agent. There it is, and we'll restart that. Now when we refresh in here, we should actually then expect to see some healthy events start to populate. And we will see that soon once it starts to get its configuration. Now that's it. So switching back to our management server, obviously we can still see it's grey. In a moment that should turn green. But as we wait for that, let's just quickly recap what we know about agents. We know that to install an agent, we need to use an account that has local admin rights on the machine we're trying to install it on. We also know that we might need to massage the Windows firewall if we're dealing with modern versions of Windows so it's able to be discovered and we're able to push that agent out. And I'll give you scripts for that, of course. We also know we can use the automatic method of installation and the manual method, and there will be cases for using either. And you should have already realized that there's a few different states that an agent can display. It can display a healthy state like you see here. It could be in an unmonitored state, as we've seen when we firstly installed the agent and it hadn't yet synced and changed to healthy. We could also show red X's and grey X's as well. Now the red X, well, obviously we're going to see that later on. It means we've got a problem. And the grey ones will indicate the last health state that our management server knew about that agent. Now we also know that our agents by default will use the heartbeat and check in with the management server every 60 seconds. And on that fourth failed check-in, the management server will consider there to be a problem. Oh, and you can see our agent just went healthy. Okay, so in this video, we've looked at how to discover computers and install Windows agents, and how to install agents manually, how to approve agents, and use the HSLockdown tool to enable agents to work properly on a domain controller. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'd like to thank you for watching.